Good morning, everyone. This is Candy with The Art of Joy, and I have an order here for a jack-o'-lantern that I am wanting to get in the mail by tomorrow, and so I need to get it finished up today. Let's get my feet up really fast. I am getting good at this. Okay, maybe not good, but I am improving on it. So, anyway, this jack-o'-lantern is going to be in the mail hopefully tomorrow. The other pumpkin that I've been working on is done, except for being sealed. And so I will be finishing that one up later, so I'm hoping to drop off 2 orders in 1 trip to the mailbox tomorrow. Anyway, let me show you real quick what I'm working on. I have to have up my original picture because after all, that's what the customer made their selection on. So I want to make it as close to the original picture as possible. But keeping in mind anything handmade, there are going to be little differences. That is what makes it one of a kind. So let's see if I can get this. So there is where I am heading today. And so I'm just going to have this over here so I can use it for reference and everything. Oh, good morning, Chantal. Tomorrow's your birthday. Happy birthday, just in case I forget to tell you tomorrow. And thank you for coming in and hanging out with me. So what I'm going to do really quick is I'm going to draw in the face. And I'm just going to use a piece of chalk. Let me move these out of my way. I use these great big huge lug nuts things to elevate my work off the surface because I tend to get paint on the underside, and that helps me to keep it from getting paint on the underside. But whenever I'm doing detail work, that gets in my way. So I do have to move that out of my way. So I am just going to use my reference photo. Once again, I'm just drawing in with chalk because chalk is really easy. It's going to allow me to see the details that I need to see, but it's going to be really easy to brush it away. And if I draw something and I don't really quite like how it came out, this will allow me to brush it out of my way and retrace it. So let's see. Start with the eyes. These are just really basic, sort of triangle eyes. I'm going to do them a little bit on an angle. And then they just got a neat little cutout section. And the nice thing about doing stuff that's not quite lined up is you don't have to worry about being perfect with your lines because that's just part of the design. Okay, so I've got my eyes drawn in. This one's a little small, but I think that when I go in with the paint, it'll be really easy for me just to enlarge it. Okay, and so let's go with the nose. The nose is also a triangle, but it is more, oh wow, I'm glad I leaned over. Sometimes you got to try to change your perspective a little because this eye is too far in the middle. I mean, it's okay to be a little cattywomp and everything, but there is a point where, okay, she made a big mistake there, so I've got that corrected. I think I want this one to go on a little more of an angle, and let's make that a little bit bigger. Okay, so now I can move on to the nose. The nose is also a triangle, but it's a bit rounded. That way it doesn't look like I'm absolutely mimicking the shape of the eyes. And then this is my favorite part because the smile is just a really big squiggly smile. And so you almost can't go wrong with the smile. Whoops. Now having said that, I didn't draw it the way I wanted the bottom. I want the bottom to kind of mimic the shape of the top. There we go. Okay, so I have my smile chopped in. And so now it's just a matter of putting the paint on, and I'm just going to be using black paint. But what I am going to do with this black paint is, I don't know what it is. I've used several different types of black paint, and they all seem to be a little thick and tend to go on gloppy. And so what I do, particularly if I am doing wording or any detail work, I'm going to thin this out and almost make it the consistency of ink. And I just do that by adding some water in. So I'm going to mix this water in. And like I said, I'm going to get this really thinned out. I want it just a little bit thinner, so just a drop or two more water. And I should be good to go. Yeah, it's nice and thin now, which means it's going to lay down quite nicely for me. Now as I stir this in, I'm getting air bubbles, but fortunately those will pop. So what I'm doing is I am using, probably just going to use two types of brushes today. And so I've got a small angled brush that's going to go in and allow me to put in some, to do my fill work, but it tends to, on this project, fill in really nicely the edges on the eyes and the nose. Now, when I get to the mouth though, I'm going to be doing something different because of the shape of the mouth. A different brush works better. Now, one of the things that I have to watch out when I'm doing this is I have a tendency not to pay attention to where my paint has been put and end up putting this part of my hand into the paint and putting paint where I don't want it. So I'm just going to take my angled brush and go up right through there. This brush is getting a little worse for the wear. I may have to make a trip to Hobby Lobby or Michael's, just depending on who might be running brushes on sale, and pick me up another one, because this, I really like the size of this. It's not too small, although I did get a really small brush that is like, oh wow, that's kind of a game changer for me as far as doing smaller areas, because I was trying to do it with a larger brush and just really fighting against it. Not to mention, this brush is starting to get stiff, and one of the things that I've noticed with a stiff paintbrush is that as you're laying down paint, it also has a tendency to pick up paint, so you're not laying down a really good line. Here, let me check something real quick. I've got okay, I am good to go. Okay, so we have definitely moved into fall here as far as what Texas can be. Today we're supposed to hit the low 90s, but considering that summers are usually high 90s to low 100s, it is surprising that when you get to this time of year after going through a hot summer, that 90 degrees can feel like fall. And so I definitely appreciate the fact that it is cooler outside. I do have to start putting the comforter back on the bed because it's getting a little cool at night in the house. But yes, very nice to have the cooler days. But what I have noticed since we started cooling off and getting down into the 70s is our hummingbirds have disappeared. So I guess it's gotten just a little too cool for them, and they are heading south. But that just gives me something to look forward to when they return in the spring. Now, I don't plan on being on very long today, because all I'm going to do here today is get the mouth roughed in. It is going to need, well, maybe by the time I get down here and get the mouth done, maybe I'll be dry enough that I can go back up here and put on the second coat. I do know that I am going to need 2 coats. And then when it's good and dry, and I need to wait for it to be good and dry to do this, I will go back with my Posca pins, and I'm going to put in some white detail and everything. And if I try to do that before I'm good and dry, then the pen won't lay down right, and it'll give me wonky lines. Yeah, I definitely need to change out this brush, because it's got bristles going in crazy directions. And sometimes a nice scrubby, see, I did it. I was not paying attention. But fortunately, I realized that I did that before I laid my hand down somewhere else. So let me just go back in real quick and fix that. Okay, so now here is where I'm going to change brushes. I am actually going to switch. I'm just looking to see if I've got one that's really long, but I think it's too long. Hold on. Yep, that one's too short. I'm going to what's called a detailed brush or an outlining brush. Those are the brushes that have the really long bristles and everything. And that's what people use when they like detail work on cars and stuff. And I've got one that's really long. I think I'm going to see if that one's going to work for me today. If not, I'll go to the shorter one. But because these lines are curved, this brush works a whole lot better, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to outline this, and then go back and fill it in. Yeah, okay, that was a good call, because I'm getting a nice, it allows me to turn these corners really easy. If I use a different style of brush, then the corners don't, they kind of get a wonky look to them, and I have to go back and smooth it out. But this nice long brush is giving me a nice clean stroke. And then the other nice thing about it, and that's one of the reasons why detail brushes tend to be so long, is because you want to be able to do a long continuous line without having to stop and reload for paint. And so I'm not using this part of the brush to paint my line. It's kind of like just feeding the paint down. Now what I have to be careful of, what I should have done is I should have done this one first, because, oh, you know what? Let's just change directions, because I use my finger to kind of help stabilize, and like over here I wasn't able to stabilize, and so I did get wonky there. And so I just let my finger stabilize my hand so that I can do a nice even stroke. And see, look, I got halfway across the mouth before I had to reload the paint. Now, having said that, I didn't go as far this time. Okay, so I can can see, hold on, I need to check something. Yeah, that'll work. I thought that this one may have been just a little bit too low, but it seems like it's in a good place. So I'm going to rinse this one off. Now I've discovered that a lot of my brushes are starting to get stiff. And what I've realized is that the reason they're getting stiff is when you go, they get stiff and then they tend to get fat. And if you pull back these bristles, you're actually going to find out that you've got gunked up, dry bits of paint in there. So I'm trying to give them a deep clean. And one of the ways that you can do a deep clean on your paint brushes is just to let them sit in a mixture of Murphy's oil soap and water. And it might be necessary to kind of let it sit overnight, but it will soften up your bristles. So now I'm going to be covering a big area here. So I do not have the brush that I really wish that I had. Do I want... No, too big. I have several brushes sitting in getting a deep clean right now, and the brush that I want is one of them. So I'm just going to come in, I'm going to grab an angled brush and see how this one will do. Good morning, Susan. Hey, I had, after you had said to me yesterday that you had used Canva on your things that you were posting. I mean, I have a Canva. I've used it once, but I hadn't messed with it again. And so I went in this morning and thought, okay, let's just see real quick what I can do. And so I actually... very quickly, I was surprised how quickly it went. I very quickly went in and created the post, letting everybody know that I was going to be going live. And so the fact that you used Canva yesterday kind of encouraged me to give it a try today. I know that both you and I tend to be somewhat challenged by the technology and stuff that we need to be using. And so the fact that you went and created such a cute little ad using Canva kind of encouraged me to give it another try today. This would all be so much easier if all I had to do was paint. Because the marketing aspect of doing business is a bit daunting and overwhelming to me. And I'm having to do a lot of telling myself to just take the next step, even if it's just a small step. Take the next step, because as long as you're taking a step, you're moving forward. And so like this morning, I had to, I don't know, I've got a bunch of little irons in the fire, and they all seem to need some sort of attention. And it's getting, when I stop and look at how many things I have to be working on, it's a bit overwhelming. And so like this morning, I just keep reminding myself, take the next little step. Because if you keep looking at how much you've got to do, you're going to get overwhelmed. And the crazy thing is, and I'm not the only one that does this, the more overwhelming a task seems, the bigger it is, doesn't motivate you to get busy on it. It tends to paralyze you, and then you don't do anything because you just really don't know where to start. And so today I had to talk myself off of that overwhelmed ledge and go, okay, here are the things that you want to do today. Which ones do you have to get done first and start on those first? And so doing my pumpkins, because I'm wanting to get them both mailed out tomorrow, has to be my priority today. So that's where I'm starting at. And then I do start my days very slowly. I am not a morning person. I've actually started telling God, and I did this morning, okay, God, I've never been a morning person, but my reality is I need to, you know what, I'm going to trade brushes on that one. That one is just so fuzzed out that it's making lines, little hairy lines that are going to end up being a bigger problem that I've got to fix. So I'm just going to change, and that way I don't end up creating more of a problem. So, and having switched gears, just totally, I totally forgot what I'm talking about. Oh, now I know. So I've been asking God, going, okay, I'm awake early anyway. I just need to learn how to be happily functioning sooner in my day than what I currently am. And what I do on any given morning during the week is I'm generally up somewhere between 5 and 6 in the morning. And I start my day very slowly. And I watch a movie that I have recorded while my body is trying to convince itself that it wants to be functioning. And so that is my routine, to watch a movie just about every morning, and then I get started on my day. But how much more functional, how much more would I accomplish if, instead of watching a movie every morning, if I just got up and got busy with my day? But I haven't convinced myself to do that as of yet. Okay, let me check something. Okay, this eye right here is looking really skinny compared to the other one. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to widen that up. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to widen it up on the inside because it doesn't seem to be slanting quite as much as the other eye. And so I'm just adding probably about 1/8 of an inch to widen this up. So earlier this week was my birthday, and so my husband and I actually celebrated over the weekend. We went up to Oklahoma City, and actually the highlight of my week was the places that we ate at. They got a place up there called Dickey's Barbecue, which is actually a franchise in this area of the country. And the one that we found in Oklahoma City is better than the one that's actually, 12 miles from here. And so we went up and I got burnt ends at Dickey's Barbecue. Then the place I was most excited, there is a place in Oklahoma City. He now has 2 locations. It's called, his original is called, I think, Nick's Grill. And Nick is spelled N-I-C, not N-I-C-K. And we found out about Nick's Grill watching Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives on the Food Channel, on Food Network. And so we went and tried that out. And they make really, really good burgers. And I am always trying to find a truly good hamburger, because honestly, there's not that many places that really make good hamburgers. And I think the big thing is that they don't season the meat enough. And so I think that's the biggest reason why it's hard to find a good hamburger. But he makes really good hamburgers. And the crazy thing is, since my husband is prior military and he qualifies for VA medical services, whenever he's got an appointment that they don't have the equipment here or the right type of doctor here, we normally will go up to the VA hospital in Oklahoma City for those appointments. And so he has, in the past several years, gone up there for heart-related appointments. And the very first time we went and ate at Nick's, he had just had a test on his heart, and I'm sitting there going, great, we go to see go in on a cardiology appointment, and then we go get a really good greasy hamburger afterwards. So anyway, I'm saying all that to say that he has actually opened up a really nice, it's still comfort food, it's still reasonably priced, except for now he does have some really high dollar stuff on his menu, but you can still get a really good burger with fries for like $10-12. And it is, the building is gorgeous. It's like going into a really nice steakhouse with the dark wood and the ornate lighting and everything. But we went and tried it. I think it's called Nick's Place something and Lounge, because downstairs he does have a lounge. We didn't go down there, but anyway, so we went there because I hadn't eaten there before, and I wanted to see what it was like. And so it's a really nice place. I did remember this time that to make my bottom line first. Okay, hold on, because I'm trying to... It's always hardest to go back and do something the second time, because even though I've got my line laid down, I have a tendency to go a little bit bigger the next time. And I don't want this to get so large. But with my long detail brushes, I want to rinse those out and not let them, and get them out of the water. I don't want to let them sit in the water, because there's a tendency that if those brushes, actually most any brushes except for really short stubby brushes, if you leave them sit in the water for a long time, the bristles will soften and start to curve, and it's really hard to pull that curve out. And so with my detail brushes, I really do not want those to get a permanent curve in them. And so I will take them out of the water as soon as I can afterwards. Okay, my paint is getting, it's starting to dry out and get a little thick. So all I'm going to do is come in here and just add a little bit more water and stir that around and get that all thinned back out. Once again, I'm trying to get it to the point where it is almost like ink. because that will allow it to lay down a really nice line that will smooth out. I'm getting a few little paint boogers in here, and so I'm having to pull those out. Now, when I am done with this, I need to go do some laundry. And so if any of you have been watching my page, you know that we had a big laundry room leak. Actually, it wasn't that it was a big leak, but we discovered once we got in and started pulling up the floor and everything, we discovered that this leak had probably been going on for quite some time, but it was just a slow leak. And because we had down on our laundry platform, we had down peel and stick tile. And so when it started leaking, we didn't see it because the water was running under the peel and stick tile. And then when it got big enough that it had reached the edges of our platform, then it started leaking down behind our verticals and ran underneath. We have the laminate plank flooring, and fortunately it's vinyl, and so we can actually just clean it up and put it back down, which is going to save us some money. But it had ran underneath the plank laminate, and then ran underneath the floor that was on, and then ran under what we thought was the subfloor, until we pulled it up and realized that there was yet another layer of flooring underneath. So we had actually 3 layers of flooring, and it had ran under all those layers. But the good news is, since there was 3 layers, when we got down to the floor joist, we could see a couple of places where it was a little bit wet, but it was not, there was no damage, there's no mold, which I'm really grateful for, considering that this had been leaking for some time. So anyway, we are to the point, we've got all of that pulled up, and have laid down the new subfloor and only 1 layer of flooring on top of that. Okay, what I'm doing, I've got, this is actually a shorter detail brush, but where I want it to be pointy, I'm just right on the tip, and then as I go where I want it to be thicker, I just push it down, which allows those bristles to spread out. Instead of having to paint all of that in, I'm just letting the brush do the work. So I think I am done for now. I've got 2 layers of paint on here. So, excuse me. I will let this dry, and then I'm going to come in and I'll have to do some cleaning up detail on my edges and get those all nice and straightened out. And then I'm going to come back in with a white Posca pen, and I'll just put some little highlight lines on here. And then, what do I have left? Oh, I will go around, and I'm going to put down probably about 1/4 to 3/8 inch of a black line, heavy black line around the edges, and then go in once again with my white Posca pen and put some squiggle lines and dot detailing on it. And then when I have all of that done, I will seal this and hopefully it will be ready to go and get packed up tomorrow. This one is heading to Shreveport, Louisiana, and then my other pumpkin, the one with all the little filigree lines on it, it is heading to California. So I am, let's see, a couple weeks ago I sent something to South Carolina, so I have covered coast to coast. And so now all I need to do is, I've sold in Texas. I haven't sold up there by the Canadian border. But when I get an order for somewhere way up north, I will be coast to coast and border to border. So anyway, I have a lot left to do on my day. You probably do too. So I see somebody, Jerry, popped on, says at work but can't watch. But I thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with me, and hope you enjoy when you watch the video later. So go out, have a great day, and I will talk to you sometime in the future. Bye.